Alright, response video to the modern mystic. Yay. You know, bridge videos. Yeah. So we have some agreement on some concepts. Whoops. Some descriptions, some definitions, some outlines. Outline. That's a good idea. The outline is, you know, we're getting a drawing of it. But, you know, what we're drawing is probably pretty complicated. And I'm not, you know, keeping one drawing. See, I actually did draw some stuff. I drew a little lizard, a little ape, and a little human. So I was thinking of the human and just what it takes care of, what it does. And, yeah, I'm agreeable to the... It's a little complicated when you say, well, what's the microphone? What's the consciousness thing? What gets into the consciousness? Because we know there's the mechanisms of our emotions. We really don't see it. We don't see the mechanism of our, like this whole video. I'm going to make this video and I have no idea what I'm going to say. Well, I have an idea, but that's all I have is like an idea, like make a video about how the brain works, sort of related to this word and this word and this word, and that's it. I mean, it's this, you know, nothing outline, and yet somehow my brain's going to construct a video here. It's going to make one. You know, now that I'm conscious of how little I have in terms of an idea of what the video is going to be, it makes it even, I'm even more aware of the fact that I'm just manufacturing this video. Here it is. I just manufactured this whole bunch of sentences. I didn't, you know, my brain did. It just manufactured this crap. This whole segment where I'm trying to explain and defend an idea, like, so it already knew the agenda, and it's, you know, baked all the ingredients and put all this stuff together, and it's serving it up, and it really isn't that bad. I mean, I haven't said anything totally ludicrous, even though I'm now even thinking about thinking while I'm talking, which is really stupid. All right, anyway, so getting back to the subject. So yeah, I'm thinking how to express that, how to explain, okay, so all three of them are conscious, you could say. That doesn't really work. They are, all three are conscious, and they're all fighting for control, we could say. Because we sort of see the battles, some of the battles. But I mean, what gets into consciousness, again, this is the trick, like what... Is it the iceberg, you know, with the little tips above the water and the rest of the iceberg's underwater? And that's sort of how we're looking at this. And I don't, you know, I'd almost say the lizard isn't even conscious. We're just conscious of what the lizard does. So then you just have, well, again, I guess I want to say that there still needs to be a microphone or something that we call, you know, the camera, whatever it is, the thing that the performance takes place for. No? Because I just don't... I mean, saying that, okay, my consciousness switches from the human to the ape, it doesn't really do that. I just feel the ape fighting inside of the human. Right? I mean, I don't become an ape. I mean, I'm still the human who's got the ape caged. So it's almost like these things have to be like those Russian things, you know, with the puppet inside the puppet thing. It's like they have to be built on top of each other. They have to be riding each other or something, and the human is the only one that's conscious. Well, this is, you know, I mean, it's an important detail. I've got to work on. I mean, I got to work on the feeling thing anyway. So I got to figure out how we do any, you know, this texture of it. This, why is it like this? Why isn't it just programming? And I mean, I know the reason. I have a speculation as to why, but I mean, I have to prove that why with more than this is the only way nature could manifest this value thing, which is the fundamental way that makes the thing work. So you had to have something that created the negative, and that's a whole other subject I want to get to, is the first negative. Because you've sort of indicated that you might be okay with this idea that I have, that there is no positive, that the whole game is basically creating the idea of a negative, you know, this negative thing, and making the positives out of basically releasing the pressure. So it's like our ego is this, it's kind of a decidedly negative function, right? I mean, it's decidedly always telling us we're not good enough, we haven't got enough stuff, we're not alpha, we're not, we can't just lie on the couch because there's something needs to get done, because we're not doing good enough, we're too homeless or too without or too poor or too something. And so it's sort of a negative force, and it's the fixing of those negatives that gains us this mechanism of not only the desire, but the idea that the desire is actually going to make us, it's going to gratify us or please us. And I kind of would argue that most of our sensual pleasures, like even something like a warm bath, are pleasurable because they're basically eliminating tensions, tensions that we're carrying around with us all day that we didn't even really know we were full of, but we're full of them. And we're sort of releasing all these little demons, that are the little jabs, little pokes. They're just little ones all over the place, little irritants. And the little irritants are released, and comfort. So, it sort of just fits in with my whole negative universe thing, but I'm just saying it does seem to fit in. It seems to fit in my whole quantum thing, and the whole gravity thing is the source of all the... But anyway, I won't get into the whole matter thing yet. But yeah, the first cause is the negative, not a positive. And the game is just filling the negative. So, I mean, if I was to metaphor the whole universe, I'd say there's a bunch of holes in the universe, and they're all in the center of atoms right now. And there's matter's trying to get back into the hole, but it has to go right into the center of the hole, and it can never get there. I mean, it always misses, and so it does the Einstein thing and gets caught up in a gravity well and just sits in there for, billions of years, until something happens, a little neutron flies by and releases it. But anyway, it's a whole nother subject. See, that's what you get when you don't, you don't dictate to the brain the menu, give it an outline of where it's supposed to go. It might go somewhere it's not supposed to go. But that's sort of what I talked. So the human, I think, I'm thinking we should call the human context and call the ape conditioning, and then we'll just need a C name for the lizard. And completeness doesn't really work, but he's that kind of. That's what I'm sort of getting to, is that the lizard is the emptier, the creator of the void that needs to be filled. But it's probably something like control. That implies too much stuff, but he is the controller of the basic feeling mechanism, the basic brain function. You can shut it off like that, right? I mean, he's the climate controller, almost. So anyway, let's get back to the human thing. So let's call him context, because he deals with these things. Like, we could call them facts, and they're, I know you don't like it's not that you don't like it, you're just not convinced that words are something our brain uses. And I'm not sure it uses words either, but I don't think it uses something... I don't think it doesn't use words in any less of a sense than like programming languages use words and then compile it into something else that's used by the computer, and then it pops back out as a computer, that's, doing something we can understand. Consciousness can understand. It is recognizable. It is a pattern our brain recognizes, words. So in a way, you almost see it like it'd be an extra step in there somehow. If it was converting words into something else, that might be cause for waste. But I think it's possible that the words are just instantly converted into the definitions. So it's like they always reduce to a definition. And so that might be the trick, is that all the definitions are already in our brain. For every single word, we have a definition for it. And all those definitions are made out of words we have definitions for. So the kind of the catch is that there is no word, because the word it's connected words. So that's like one of these catch-22s of the brain, is that you could never find the word, because the word is its connections to other words. But none of those words exist either, because they're just connections to other words. So in that sense, I would agree with you that our brain isn't using words, but it is using definitions, and definitions are essentially using words to describe words, and in the end, all that exists is the relationship between thing and thing. So everything we could give a word to, like a bottle, has a relationship to all other bottles. It has a relationship to what it's made out of, plastic. It has a relationship to its function, spray. So all of that's built into that thing as a concept, and so all of those concepts are attached to that concept when it goes into my head. Now, if somebody just says the word bottle with my eyes closed, and I'm giving no detail of the bottle, spray might not occur to me. What it's made out of might not occur to me, and I might think about contents of bottles instead. You know, fetus in a bottle, or some kind of crap like that. So we really are dependent on the pieces being there, and they don't even have to be in our brain labeled, because we already identified what it is and its function. It's a mist producer, you know. So anyway, yeah, so I'm tending to agree, okay, it's not words, it's structure, but it is kind of a paradox that I think the whole thing is built out of words, but they're not words that are actually words, they're words that are definitions. But enough of that. So anyway, the point is this is a context machine, right? Because it's doing these two things. It's doing the logic thing, which is sort of the measure two theories of reality, and you know, test them, you know, run them through their paces. So I give you an idea that I'll make a car engine out of marshmallow fluff, and I give you this idea that I'll make one out of steel. And then we compare the performance of these two in our head as what's going to happen to the marshmallow fluff one. Oh yeah, as soon as it reaches 95 degrees, it's going to melt. And 35 centigrade, it's going to melt and turn to shit. And yeah, it's not going to work as an engine. This one explosion, it's all over. It's just going to blow up. So it's crap. And so there's two logical theories, or two ideas put in competition, and one just automatically wins by what we understand to be the science. So just like the words have definitions, we have tied to these concepts all these scientific definitions, all these rules of science, that hot makes things liquid, that kind of idea. Water dissolves most things, you know, lots of things anyway that we're common with. We understand saturation points, we understand fog, we understand these different kinds of mechanisms in the physical world, and we apply them as part of the test. We test them based on these theories of what's possible, and we find where there's flaws, and we just say, well, this one has more flaws than that one, this one's better, the end. So, but that's sort of what logic is. Logic is just doing this test in an imaginary world of facts. So we put an idea into our fact universe, and we just say, go for it, fucker. And if it survives and comes back out and says, I didn't get beat up, then we keep it and say, you can stay. Yeah, you're a winner. And so the other thing the brain's doing as part of this game would be this imagination thing, because obviously it has to imagine when it's doing logic, but it can also cheat and say, let's use that imagination engine for fun. And so instead of using it, it's almost like masturbating, right? I mean, you know, nature didn't intend us to do that, but we could figure it out and say, yeah, this might be a shortcut. And we are sort of cheaters in our brain, because now that we have this ability to do the imagination thing for this constructive purpose of figuring out whether I should run left or right, and figuring out which one's likely to get me eaten by wolves or something, instead of doing something serious with our brain, we end up doing something unserious with it, because we know, well, we can use our logic engine, you know, the imagination thing, the thing that can do modeling. We can use that engine just to put a bunch of girls in, you know, short skirts and have them run around and take care of us and do all kinds of fun things. And Yeah, we can entertain ourselves. And then we can even do it, when we get really serious about it, we can make a movie, and then we can watch the movie. And it does the images for us, and then we don't have to construct it with our imagination and all that stuff, and it's spontaneous, and so it doesn't have all of our, we don't know the secrets. And so it's a little bit more fun when we're surprised, because we're not making it up ourselves. But it is possible to surprise yourself, like this video has surprised me. I'm surprised where it went. This is where it went. I'm surprised. This seems that's kind of an interesting concept. I don't even think I've actually sat down and thought the concept. I just concepted to make this video. So here I threw this imagination engine right in this middle of this video. I've constructed, little pieces of a theory, put it to work, articulated it, and at the same time I've already realized inside my head, this is a pretty good theory, Gary. Yeah, this might be a keeper. And so, yeah, so it's sort of interesting. But so anyway, so that's the idea. This context thing just does this bigger picture thing. It adds to our reality. It adds all these fantasies and logical constructs, science and fantasy. It adds both of those. It does that kind of stuff. And so the gorilla is a witness to it, because the gorilla's inside. Okay, so he's seeing everything I'm seeing. Now, a lot of this stuff he doesn't understand. He doesn't give a crap. He doesn't know E equals MC squared, whatever. I don't even want to hear about that. He just says, M, good letter. M, I like M. Or something like that, And he likes M's better than like C's. Okay, and he hates 2's. Just can't stand 2's. So he gives us a little bit of emotion when we see something, because he says, I like M's, but I don't like C's. This kind of bullshit. But that's all he can do with this stuff. He doesn't get the whole vocabulary thing and big idea and concept and all that shit. Well, he does. So this is I gotta be fair. He does have some vocabulary. There's major words like plague. Yeah, he knows that plague is bad. Plague bad. Plague bad. And he reacts a little harsher to that than he would to the M. The word plague, he knows that's red. Warning. Help Will Robinson. Get out. Yeah. So he does know vocabulary. He just doesn't know. He doesn't know it conceptually like we do. And his reactions are the ones that are tainted. Where the human just says plague is just a description of a disease formation on planet Earth that affected these million people during this part of the human evolution, or some sort of bullshit like that. Where the gorilla is saying there's dead bodies, and he's upset because it's got all these ugly images attached to it and these ugly ideas and this black crap and all that. The whole thing is ooh. Yuck, give you a queasy. You just don't, it ain't going to make you feel good thinking about that shit too much. Unless, of course, you're fucked in the head. Unless your gorilla, your ape, has been conditioned through its experience to end up associating this with fun. Like you went to amusement parks and you rode the plague roller coaster and you really loved it. And, it had zombies, plastic zombies that would try to knock you out of your car or something. And, it was just big fun for everyone. So you really like plague instead of hate plague. Alright, so anyway, so we'll call the human, this is just, throwing it out there. Call him context, because he's mostly about adding to reality. Call the ape conditioning, because he's all about this conditioned response thing, and that some of that conditioning can be modified by time, but most of it is developed in your maturation, and you're kind of stuck with it. But like 30% or whatever is mutable, where you can have these elevated disciplined thoughts, and you can sort of civilize the ape a little. You can make him use a knife and a fork, and you can start to get him to like to do something. He might even learn to eat tofu or something. Who the fuck knows? And then you got the dirt dumb lizard, inside the ape, who's just reacting because, you know, when the ape gets excited, he stomps on the lizard a little, or he punches him, or he squeezes him too hard, or he does something, and the lizard just hits you with something hard. That's all he knows, is just to say, lizards are quiet. They just kind of just sit there, and they just wait till you make enough noise, and then they decide to run. They panic. And so the lizard's just sitting there waiting to panic. He's waiting to say, I'm going to stick my tongue out and get some food, or I'm going to run, or I'm going to do something. You know, but he's just waiting for enough of pressure, enough noise created by the ape and the human to do something. Yeah, okay. So, but he's also responsible for the basic functions. You know, piss, poop, food, sex. What else are we hungry for? Now, yes, but this is the trick. Okay, so those are the basic ones, right? These basic bodily function things that the lizard requires us to maintain, because he just says, it's time, give me some of this, or get me out of here because it's too hot, or some other physical thing, and he says, it's too much, get out of here. And so he sets those rules. So then what we got left, though, is this ego thing, you know, which is this the desire mechanism that's more complicated than the basic I'm hungry thing. And so I think, like I was implying before, the ego is made out of this negative thing that requires us to say, well, we need to do something because we're not good enough. We don't have enough. We're not complete enough. And it kind of sets, it's not really a lizard agenda. It's kind of an ape agenda, where it's just kind of part of the conditioning that establishes what you feel is sufficient environmental circumstances, enough style in your life, or all that kind of stuff is sort of going to be dictated by that conditioned mechanism. So maybe the ego would have to sit inside the ape, you know, and he's the one that needs the little victories in the movies, or the victory on the baseball field, or some other kind of bullshit, and vicariously live through that emotional experience and all that kind of stuff, and almost like satisfy the negatives of their own life by using so that you're going to use the imagination of the smarter human to project themselves into whatever they're watching and make themselves into the hero, and in some sense gain some sort of, like, I just won the game, or I just hit the big home run, or I just, you know, whatever the fucking bullshit is, because they created a little bit of a narrative inside their head where they're actually doing what they're watching, or they're actually part of it somehow. And that somehow we do play games with our ego to satisfy our ego, to satisfy some of our desire to be more than we are, by just pretending we did something because we just did it in a movie, you know, where of course we didn't really do it. So anyway, yeah, that's enough. So yeah, I still gotta work on the pain thing. I think my idea of this electric thing, is a good idea, because pain does have this sparky nature. It does have this inconsistent and erratic nature. I'm still going to argue that, to me, I just can't see pain being anything like just a pattern recognition or a thought thing. It just is different. It's just so much more obnoxious than a regular thought, than any possible thought, than even emotion. I mean, emotions are just rubbing, you know, just barely tingling, barely grazing the piano keys or something. You know, when real pain has got you, it's got you, and it's got you with something that's just, you know, very controlling. So anyway, yeah, I'm gonna love that today. Yes, I'm looking for my remote control. Yeah. What the hell is it? I mean, it was right here. This is something my brain should be able to manage too. Like, why can't it manage these simple things? Well, it's not over there. It's not under the paper. It really should be right here, so I can, you know, turn my movie on. Yeah, it's really important. My movie. Yeah, I've just got into the habit of, you were talking about the photo frame, right? Well, at mine I can play these movies on it. And, I've really gotten into the habit of doing this. And it's kind of interesting because, I just play them silent, but it's just, I just watch I just watch the movies play. And I kind of already know the dialogue because they're movies I've seen, a million times. Well, now a million times for sure. And, yeah, it's really, I like it. It's good use of technology to have the, it just almost keeps the brain going because it's got this little narrative on the side that just says, okay, keep the brain going, because the lizard kind of wants the whole thing to shut down sometimes. That's probably just a rationalization. And it's completely off subject, so yeah, the brain did fail there. I mean, whatever it just did now, this was sort of a waste. This wasn't very constructive. It didn't think it out very well. This wouldn't have passed the test if I had time to think about it and say, what about that bit? Shall I include that? No, they would have said too foggy, too mushy, too irrelevant to the subject. Yeah, no point in that. So I think that's enough. Yeah, that's what I said before. And then I got distracted by my obsession thing. Yeah, I'm just being so aware of my psychology lately, and it's just not good because my psychology is really fucked up, and I'm just, it's worse than it used to be, and it's just that it's like I should have more control, not less control. And, yeah, I don't. So it's funny. So, no, it's not really funny. It's irritating. Anyway, enough of video. Enough. Sorry.